This is my first video update for the day. It is Wednesday here in Athens, Greece. You can listen to the cicadas all around us. And it is a hot Wednesday here in Athens. Let's talk about some news. The big story from yesterday was the attack in Crimea, in Novofedorovska, which is right on the Black Sea. It's an area located not deep inside of Crimea, but right there on the Black Sea. The attack happened in and around an airbase known as Skasi, I believe is the name of the airfields. And from what I understand, a lot of the damage caused by this attack took place in a village around Skasi, and we don't know what happened. Actually, we are getting reports from the Russian Ministry of Defense that this attack wasn't really an attack, but it was an ammo depot that went off. That is what you're getting from the Russian Ministry of Defense. I really don't buy that at all. But from the Ukraine side of things, well, that's where it gets interesting. The Ukraine Ministry of Defense has not officially taken responsibility for what happened, but they have sent out tweets where they kind of tiptoe around taking responsibility for what happened in Novofedorovska. And the reports are two narratives. We're getting two narratives. The first one says that this was a missile strike, and the second one says that this was a sabotage operation, kind of an inside job as to what happened in this airfield. And I believe the sabotage one, to be quite honest, because if this was a missile strike, then you had so many people in the area, hundreds, thousands of people in the area. Someone would have surely taken a photo, a video, or we would have had an eyewitness account, probably many eyewitness accounts of missiles landing on this airfield. But we don't really have that. All we have are just videos of the explosions, and the explosions happen pretty much at the same time. They're not one after the other. Some accounts say there were 7 explosions, others say 10. I don't know. I don't know which one is correct. I've seen videos with two explosions taking place, 2 or 3 explosions taking place, and they're pretty much happening right at the same time, which kind of debunks the entire ammo depot going off, like the one going off and then leading to a chain reaction to the other depot. That kind of debunks that, the video evidence that we have. So I kind of think this was a sabotage operation, and the New York Times actually interviewed someone in the Ukraine Ministry of Defense. And let me actually pull that up, because the use of words is quite interesting that the New York Times uses here. And keep in mind, Ukraine has not officially taken responsibility for this, but they are kind of saying, yeah, we did it, but we're not going to officially claim that we did. And so, by the way, we have reports that 1 person has died, and I'm getting reports of 7 to 10 people were injured as well. So those are the latest reports with regards to the casualties. So the New York Times, citing a high-ranking Ukrainian military official, writes that the Ukraine armed forces were directly involved in the explosions at the airfield near Novofedorovka in Crimea, while he did not disclose the type of weapon used allegedly for the explosion. So they say the word explosions, they don't say the word missiles. And to be quite honest, the thinking is that this was some sort of HIMAR. But if this was a HIMAR, long-range missile HIMAR, the collective West would definitely want Ukraine to take responsibility for this, because it would be great advertisement for the HIMARS, wouldn't it? You would probably sell another 500 to Poland and another 1,000 to the Baltic nations if the HIMARS was able to evade Russian air defense and hit an area inside of Crimea. So I would imagine that if this was a missile strike, especially a HIMARS missile strike, the Pentagon would be calling Zelensky and saying, claim responsibility. Say it was a HIMARS. Say that Ukraine did this because this is going to be good for sales. And the fact that they're saying this was an explosion, according to the New York Times, I think it hints to me that this was some sort of sabotage operation, an inside job perhaps. And who knows if the Ukraine government knew about the saboteurs or didn't know about the saboteurs. It doesn't matter what the regime knows. They're going to use this for a PR, media, optics win and an optics distraction from the fact that they're losing very, very bad in the Donbass. Just to give you a quick update with regards to the Donbass, the Belokamensk refractory plant has been liberated by the Russian troops. They took control of this industrial facility in Soledar, and they're moving further inwards. They're getting closer to Bakhmut, and the village of Gladasova was also liberated by the DPR, and it's completely under DPR control. So while this incident in Crimea looks bad for Russia from a media PR standpoint, and of course you don't want to discount the fact that one person lost their life and say anywhere of upwards of 10 people were injured, the actual effect that something like this has on the actual war is nil, to be quite honest, because while this sabotage, and I'll call it a sabotage for now until we get more information which proves otherwise, this sabotage didn't stop the Russian forces from continuing to grind away at the Ukraine fortifications in Donbass and to continue to take over villages and industrial facilities and other territory in the Donbass as they make their way to perhaps the last battles in Donetsk, which will involve Slavyansk, Kramatorsk, and Avdiivka, and all these areas, all these fortified areas. So this is very much like the Moskva. Is it a good distraction for the collective West? Yes. Is it a good distraction for Zelensky and the Zelensky regime? Absolutely. Is it bad PR optics for Russia? Sure, because a lot of people are going to say Russia's moving too slow. How is Russia going to retaliate? What are the Russians going to do? How could they hit Crimea? All of this stuff will start to resurface. But does it change anything with regards to the inevitable collapse of the Zelensky regime and of the Ukraine military? No, not one bit. So I will leave that story there. And I'm sure very much like the Moskva, we're not going to really know what happened. We're not going to really get to the truth of this, at least not in the short term, but maybe later on down the line, we may understand what caused this explosion in Crimea. And we're going to probably have more instances of sabotage taking place in Russia and in the newly controlled areas of Ukraine, the liberated areas, as the Russians call them in Ukraine, because it's just part of war. Stuff like this happens in war, and when this war is over, I'm sure you're going to have various instances of sabotage taking place. It's just going to be a reality of the situation. It's going to take some time for it to clear out, and I'm 100% sure that the Russians will get a handle on everything over time, and you won't have sabotage operations taking place over time, over the medium and long term. But I think in the short term, this is what war is about. And this wasn't the first time we've seen something like this, and it won't be the last. So I will leave it there. Let's talk about Serbia and the Russian ambassador to Serbia. He came out with a statement, and he said, and I want to get into the shade here so I can read you what he said. Man, is it hot today. I mean, it is. I feel like I'm cooking. I feel like I am cooking here. Let's see here. Let me get to his quote, because it's a big story, actually. It's hot, but it's also windy. A Russian military base will appear in Europe, according to the Russian ambassador in Belgrade, Alexander Botsan-Karchenkov. He said that a Russian military base would be set up in Serbia. He stressed that this decision is a sovereign affair of the Republic of Serbia and Russia. Now, that is a huge statement. Obviously, at this moment, there is going to be no military base in Serbia, just given the geography and the fact that a Russian military base in Serbia at this moment would be just terribly difficult to maintain, to protect, and to supply, because it would be completely surrounded. So it would be untenable for a base right now. But what the statement from the ambassador does tell us, what it hints to us, is that Russia is going to take this all the way to the border. And if this operation makes it to the border, well, then everything changes, doesn't it? And you could very well see a situation where, when the geography changes and when Russia controls much of the territory leading all the way to Transnistria and to the borders of the European Union, well, then a military base in Serbia becomes a high probability, and it doesn't become so difficult to maintain. So I think this is an interesting statement, and it hints to the fact that we may be seeing Russia, we may be seeing the indications from the ambassador that Russia is indeed going to make it all the way to the border. When that happens, everything changes, especially for Serbia. So I'm going to meet Alexander right here. We're going to sit for a coffee, and I'll probably do a second video. But with Alexander, what we're going to do is we're going to do a video, and we're going to talk about the clown world. We're going to have Alexander do the clown world today, and I'm going to pull it up before I meet Alexander here. 1 second. And this clown world has to do with an Zelensky aide saying that the counteroffensive is just part of Kiev's information warfare. So let me just sit down right here next to Alexander. And Alexander's going to do our clown world today.
Oh, well.
Yep, Alexander, the clown world is yours, and I'm going to tell you what the clown world is.
Okay.
Who is it hot? We had an Zelensky aide say that the counteroffensive, Kherson, the Great Kherson counteroffensive, is just part of information warfare.
Okay.
What say you about that? That was a true statement. And it was Michael Podolyak.
Podolyak, oh my god.
And he said this, speaking to the British broadcaster, BBC, Podolyak said that war is a dynamic process that entails a constant correction of tactical goals, and that he preferred to discuss the possibility of lifting the blockade in broad terms. And he said that the counterattack claims, and I quote, are part of Kiev's information warfare. Certainly, all public comments are part of information warfare. We need to demoralize the Russian army. So it was the whole Kherson counteroffensive was an exercise in demoralization. What say you?
Of course, it's an exercise in demoralization of the Western public and the Ukrainian public and the Ukrainian army. Because let's face it, it's they who've been told that there's going to be this great counteroffensive. They've had their hopes raised by this counteroffensive that was going to throw the Russians all the way back across the Dnieper River, all the way back to Russia, that was going to lead to the reconquest of Crimea. So now, of course, we learn that it's all about information war and psychological preparation. I wonder whether this gentleman maybe isn't actually working for the other side, because it's the only explanation I can think of for this. I mean, this is absolute lunacy. This is so absurd. It is so ridiculous. It is so tragicomical, because there's both tragedy and comedy in equal parts of this. But I think we can take it from this that there isn't going to be a Kherson counteroffensive. So I think this fantasy, this spectre of this counteroffensive that we've been hearing about since I've been hearing about it since March. Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis puts it back to May and April, but I can definitely remember reading things about this way back in March. Daily Telegraph regularly writes pieces about it. The British Ministry of Defence has just published another bulletin about this counteroffensive. Well, it looks as if this counteroffensive is largely an imaginary, mythological counteroffensive. It has as much reality as, well, the Minotaur or other creations of the mind. It doesn't exist. It's not going to happen. It won't ever happen. And I think we might as well forget about it.
Alexander Mercouris giving you today's Clown World, theduran.locals.com. Take care, everybody.